Hey guys, it's Lewis from Recycle Bicycle Sales here. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to re-grease your headset on your bicycle. So why would you actually need to re-grease the headset bearings? Well, I think I can put it down to just a few different reasons. The first one is maybe you're chasing a noise and your bike's making this awful creaking noise and you have no idea where it's coming from. There's a pretty large chance that it might be coming from the headset bearings. When we re-grease the headset bearings, they're actually a consumable part. So if we're re-greasing them regularly, that's going to help them last a little bit longer as well. And on top of this, if we re-grease the headset bearings, the whole front end might feel a little bit smoother. So if you're doing a full service, it might be nice just to re-grease the headset bearings as well. So what do we actually need to be able to re-grease the headset? The first one is we're going to need a set of Allen keys to remove the stem and the whole headset. It's usually a 4mm and a 5mm Allen key, so grab yourself a set of Allen keys. We're also going to need some rubber gloves, maybe not necessarily a need, but it's going to make it a lot cleaner. We're going to need some fresh grease that we can put in there and a relatively dirty rag to wipe away the old grease. Step number one, I'm going to recommend fitting some gloves. This is going to make it so that when we go and have lunch a little bit later, we're still able to eat it without having a bit of grease in our sandwich. For most of the YouTube videos that we do here, I always say that you don't necessarily need a bike stand, like replacing a tube or something like that. You can just flip the bike over. With doing this particular job, re-greasing the headset, a bike stand is definitely going to help. However, if you don't have a bike stand, you can always just grab a strong piece of rope, tie it from the roof and hang the saddle from it. The bike will swing around a little bit, but at least it will have it off the floor so that it can take weight off of the headset bearings. Now we're actually ready to start doing the job. I recommend removing the front wheel to start, whether yours uses an Allen key or a quick release skewer. We're just going to remove the wheel and place it to the side. And now everything's a little bit easier. What we'll do now is we're going to remove the stem and the handlebar as one piece together. We don't want to remove the handlebar. We want to remove the handlebar and the stem together. So we'll loosen these two pinch bolts on the side. Or you might even have 3 or 1, but this example's got 2. So we'll just loosen the pinch bolts. Before we completely remove everything, I'm going to say let's take a mental image or even a quick photo with your phone to remind ourselves where these different spaces are. On this bike, I can see that there's 2 10mm spaces underneath and 1 above. So as long as I can remember that when I put it back together, the bike fit won't change. So we've loosened the 2 bolts on the side, they're called the pinch bolts. And now we're going to completely remove this top bolt. Now be careful, when you remove this top bolt, there's a chance that the fork can drop out because that's going to remove all tension off of everything. So we'll take that all the way off. And I've just noticed there as well, I've grabbed the top cap, the bolt, and even that top headset spacer. So now there's nothing on there. And since the pinch bolts are loose, I should be able to twist the handlebar freely from the fork, which means I'll be able to pull it up with a bit of force. There we go. Cool. Now, if I was to let go of the fork with my left hand, there's a chance that it could fall out, or maybe not. There's a chance it could happen at home, so just be careful there. We'll continue removing each part. Now, there's a few different parts of the headset here as well. So as you're taking them off, take a mental image of how they were. There's different spaces or different washers or all this sort of stuff. So I tend to put them down in a row so that I remember what order they go back in on. Now the fork's completely removed and we can see both of the headset bearings. Come over here and I'll show you exactly what I mean. This is the headset bearing here. We've got one on the top and one on the bottom. The headset bearing is the part that allows the handlebars to be able to turn freely, or it allows the steer tube of the fork that the handlebars are connected to be able to steer freely. So now we're ready to remove the bearing and clean everything. We're going to clean the frame and the bearing, and we'll do the same thing on the bottom as well. And now we're removing the bottom one, and it's the exact same process as the top one, except now we're pulling down. What you might notice here is that they're actually slightly different size bearings. This isn't always the case, but like 9 times out of 10, you'll find that the bottom headset bearing is quite a bit larger, like the actual diameter is wider, or circumference diameter is wider than what the top one is. So if you put them down on the table and you put them next to each other and you forget which one's which, usually the smaller one's the top one and the bigger one's the bottom one. Now that the headset bearings are removed, we can talk about actually cleaning the actual headset. So I'm purposely using a relatively dirty rag here. I'm trying not to use a brand new one because this is dirty, yucky black grease. So we'll clean that whole area. You can honestly go pretty over the top with it if you wanted to, but really all we're trying to do is just get rid of the old stuff. You don't have to try and eat your dinner off of it or anything like that. And repeat the same process for the bottom. You might even find that while you're cleaning it, especially with this bottom bearing, that there might even be some sand in there. As the wheel spins around, it might flick up some sand and some dirt and some grit into there. So make sure we get all of it out. Any bits of sand or grit that get stuck into the actual balls of the ball bearing will make it so much harder to perform well, and that's what makes the whole front end feel really sandy. Let's get rid of it. Now that we've cleaned the frame, let's go and clean all the other little bits that go in here. We've got may as well even clean the spaces while we're here. I suppose you don't need to, but we'll clean literally everything that we can. This little split washer, which is quite an important piece. I'm not using any like liquids here, but I suppose you could, like a degreaser if you wanted to, but as long as you're just getting rid of the muck, that's all that matters. But a degreaser will make it a little bit easier, I suppose. Now, the ones you actually do need to clean are these bearings here. At the start, we just simply put them to the side so that we can give them a proper clean later. And we're just getting rid of all the muck. And hopefully, once they're as clean as we can get them, they should be a nice polished silver, just like that. This is what it will look like when it comes out of the frame, covered in grease. And this is what it will look like once it's all clean. Now that I've cleaned the bearings, I'm just gonna have a quick look or a quick feel to check their condition as well. When they're completely brand new, fresh out of the box, if you were to hold the outside of the bearing, put a couple of fingers inside and twist it, it should be buttery smooth. If it's starting to feel a little bit sandy or a little bit gritty, or you can feel some play between the inner race and the outer race, that's a pretty clear sign that it might be time to replace our headset bearing. But in this video, we're just talking about how to regrease, which is great because these are actually in really good condition. If you want more information on this process, let us know in the comments below. But the long and short is, if you needed to replace the headset bearings, this is the step where we'd be doing that. I'm also just wiping off the crown race on the bottom of the fork here as well, because that's where that bottom headset bearing is going to fit. And we're just going pretty over the top with cleaning the whole sort of area. And now we're ready to start reinstalling all the different parts. This is where we're going to start using our trusty little bit of grease here. A couple of different ways you can apply it. You can either put your finger in there and sort of wipe it through wherever it needs to go. Definitely helps if you're wearing gloves. But I, a smart bike mechanic, have a little tool that I found in the rubbish bin that I'm going to use. All I'm going to do is just lather the bottom headset bearing, going pretty over the top, giving it a nice healthy amount of grease, if we can. I might even grab a little bit more, because we want to make sure that it's completely covered so that all of the metal parts of the bearing that are rubbing up against the carbon fiber frame have a little bit of grease. And I'll do the same for the top. And now that the top and bottom headset cups are completely lathered in grease, I'm just going to fit the bearings back in or replace with our new ones. Again, there is a bottom and there is a top, so make sure that you get them the correct way around. We're just going to go and fit the fork without getting much grease on it. Now, you might remember before that I took all the pieces out in the order that they came off. That's going to help me be able to fit everything correctly. So first of all, we had this little split washer. I call it a split washer because it literally has a split in it, and it's a washer, I guess. And that's just gonna fit straight into that bearing there, which is gonna sit into the sort of cone shape of the bearing. Then we've got our little dust cover, slide that one down. And if we can remember from earlier in this video, we had 2 headset spaces underneath before we put the handlebars and stem back on. And then we had the top headset bearing. This is a metal bolt going into a metal thread of the expander. So I'm just gonna put a little, probably too much, just a little lick of grease onto there so that when the next mechanic that has to undo this bolt, it's not gonna be completely seized for them. And as I always recommend with most bolts, if we can start the thread with just our fingers before having to use a tool, we know that we're not gonna be cross-threading it. It's the safest way to do it. And now we're up to the part where we're actually gonna start tightening our headset. Now this is the exact same process that we did right at the start, but completely reversed. And I'm just going to tighten up that top one a little bit. I won't bother tightening up the 2 pinch bolts yet, so it's still a little bit loose, because I'm gonna put the wheel back in so that I can put the bike on the floor and have the weight of the bike pushing down on all of the bolts while I tighten them up. Now we're gonna start tightening the headset. If you want a more in-depth video about how to tighten a headset, we've done one further back in our YouTube channel. If you've been following for a while, you know that I put a lot of emphasis on making sure that the headset is tight. I think it's probably one of the most important things on your bike, so make sure you do this step properly. I'm just gonna quickly skim over it in this video, but if you want a proper in-depth one, there's a video further back on our channel. I'm just gonna tighten that top bolt, straighten up the handlebars, and then clamp it all into place with our 2 little pinch bolts on the side. And now handlebars are straight. I can do a quick little drop test just to make sure that everything is sort of settling into place. And then as I talk about in the headset video, I'll grab the front brake, try and rock it back and forth and see if there's any play, which there's not. Yeah, perfect. Still very happy with that. Now we're ready to clean everything, make it all look nice and pretty, go for a test ride and make sure it works how it should. And now in this final step, we're just going to clean away any of the mess that we've made. Maybe your greasy handprints are all over the place. All I'm doing is trying to get rid of as much of that as I can. I'm actually using a different rag than I was using earlier in this video. The other one's back there and it was blue, not green. But I'm just getting rid of the final little bits because I know that I might have left some greasy handprints all over the place. Oh, that was a good one. And now I'm gonna go out into the car park, test ride this and make sure that it all feels the way that it should because the job is finished. I'd rather find an issue out on the test ride rather than once the customer comes and picks it up, or if it's your bike, once you're out taking it for a ride. So go for a lap around your driveway or up and down the local street. You know, try steering, try bouncing it, try braking hard. Just make sure that everything's settling back into place. You might need to re-tension it, as in retighten the headset, when you come back inside. Other than that, I think we've mentioned everything that you need to know about cleaning and re-greasing your headset. I'm gonna say thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video. See you guys.